What if I told you that the worst thing that ever happened to you was the best thing that never happened to your grandfather? There's a photograph that doesn't exist anymore. It was taken in 1932, somewhere in Oklahoma, and it showed a man standing in front of a farmhouse that was already half buried in dust. The man's face was hard, carved out of sun and hunger, and his eyes had that look. You know the one. The look of someone who has seen the bottom and decided to stay alive anyway. That photograph is gone now, lost to time or thrown away by someone who wanted to forget. But the man in it, he survived. He survived because he had no choice, because comfort was not an option, because every single day was a fight, and fighting was the only skill that mattered. You don't have that photograph. You have a smartphone. You have climate control. You have a refrigerator that hums in the kitchen, and a mattress that cost more than that man made in a year. And here's the part that should terrify you. You are weaker than he was, not because of your genetics, not because of your character, but because the world you live in was deliberately designed to make you soft, to make you manageable, to make you dependent. And it worked. This is not a story about nostalgia. This is not some romantic daydream about the good old days when men were men and life was simple. Life was not simple. Life was brutal. But brutality had a side effect that no one talks about anymore. It made people sharp. It made them resilient. It gave them an edge that could cut through anything. And then, somewhere between the end of the Great Depression and the invention of the credit card, that edge was stolen, not by accident, not by progress, but by design. There's a war being fought right now, and you are losing it. It is not a war with guns or borders. It is a war against your own capacity to endure, against your ability to suffer and come out stronger, against a part of your brain that knows, deep down, that you are capable of so much more than what you are currently doing. And the weapon being used against you is not violence. It is comfort. It is convenience. It is the slow, suffocating embrace of a life that requires nothing from you except that you keep consuming and keep complying. The thesis is simple, and it is this. Hardship is not a bug in the system. It is a feature. It is the forge. It is the thing that turns soft metal into steel. And for the last 70 years, there has been a coordinated effort to remove that forge from your life, to replace it with something that feels better but leaves you hollow, to give you everything you think you want and take away the only thing you actually need, the struggle. Let me take you back to a time when struggle was not optional. It is 1933. You are standing in a bread line in Chicago. It is February. The wind coming off Lake Michigan feels like it wants to kill you. And maybe it does. You have been standing here for 4 hours. Your shoes have holes in them, and you can feel the cold concrete through the cardboard you stuffed inside to try to keep your feet dry. The man in front of you is coughing, a wet, rattling sound that you know means tuberculosis, but you do not step away. Because if you lose your place in line, your family does not eat today. The bread, when you finally get it, will be hard and tasteless. It will not be enough. But you will take it home, and you will split it into pieces, and you will watch your children eat, and you will tell yourself that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow is not different. Tomorrow is the same. And the day after that is the same. And the day after that for years. This is not a metaphor. This is not a thought experiment. This was the lived reality of millions of people. Your great-grandparents, your grandparents, people who are still alive today, though not for much longer. And when they are gone, the memory of what real hardship looks like will be gone with them. Here is what that hardship did. It created a generation of people who could not be broken, who could not be bought, who looked at suffering and said, "Fine, if that is the game, then I will learn to play it better than anyone else." They did not have therapists. They did not have life coaches. They did not have motivational podcasts or self-help books or any of the 10,000 tools we have today to make ourselves feel better about doing nothing. They had one tool: endurance. The ability to keep moving forward when everything in the universe was telling them to lie down and quit. And it worked. By 1945, that generation has survived the worst economic collapse in modern history and won the largest war ever fought. They did not do it because they were special. They did it because they had no other choice. The hardship made them capable. The suffering made them strong. The lack of comfort made them unstoppable. Now, let me show you what happened next, because this is where the story gets dark. It is 1956. The war is over. The factories are running. The economy is booming. And there is a man sitting in an office in New York City, and he is thinking about a problem. The problem is this: Americans have everything they need. They have food. They have shelter. They have basic security. And when people have everything they need, they stop buying things. They save money. They repair their clothes instead of buying new ones. They drive their cars until the wheels fall off. This is a problem if you are in the business of selling things, because selling requires desire. It requires people to feel like what they have is not enough, like they need more, always more. This man's name is Ernest Dichter, and he is the father of what we now call consumer psychology. But back then, he called it something else. He called it motivational research. His job was to figure out why people buy things, not what they need, what they want, and more importantly, how to make them want things they do not need. Dichter understood something that most people did not. He understood that human beings are not rational, that we do not make decisions based on logic or necessity. We make decisions based on feelings, based on fear, based on the desperate need to fill some emptiness inside us that we cannot even name. And if you can tap into that emptiness, if you can make people believe that buying your product will fill it, then you can sell them anything, forever. He started running experiments. He would bring people into rooms and ask them questions, not about products, but about themselves, about their childhood, about their anxieties, about their dreams. He would show them advertisements and watch their pupils dilate. He would measure their sweat response, their heart rate, the micro expressions on their faces. He was not selling soap or cars or cigarettes. He was selling the idea that happiness was something you could purchase, that comfort was not just a luxury, but a right, that you deserved to feel good all the time, and if you did not, it was because you had not bought the right thing yet. And it worked. By 1960, the entire advertising industry had adopted his methods. Every commercial you saw, every billboard, every magazine ad was designed not to inform you, but to manipulate you, to make you feel inadequate, to make you believe that the life you were living was not good enough, that you needed a bigger house, a newer car, a better wardrobe, a wider smile. The message was always the same. You are not enough. But you could be. If you just buy this, this was the beginning of the comfort trap. The idea that life should be easy, that struggle was a sign of failure, that if you were uncomfortable, something was wrong, and the solution was to spend money to make the discomfort go away. It was a brilliant strategy, because comfort is addictive. The more you have, the more you need. And the more you need, the weaker you become. Let me be very clear about what I mean by weak. I do not mean physically weak, although that is also true. I mean psychologically weak, spiritually weak. The kind of weak that makes you unable to handle even the smallest inconvenience without falling apart. The kind of weak that makes you check your phone 40 times an hour because you cannot stand to be alone with your own thoughts for 5 minutes. The kind of weak that makes you order food to your door instead of cooking because the effort of chopping an onion feels like too much. This is not a character flaw. This is conditioning. This is what happens when you grow up in a world that has systematically removed every single challenge from your life and replaced it with a button you can press to make the discomfort go away. But here is the trick. Comfort does not make you happy. It makes you numb. It makes you dependent. It turns you into a consumer, a passive recipient of experiences designed by someone else, and it robs you of the one thing that actually creates meaning in life, the ability to overcome. Think about the last time you felt truly proud of yourself. Not pleased, not satisfied, proud. I am willing to bet it was not because something easy happened to you. It was because you did something hard. Because you pushed through discomfort and came out the other side. Because you suffered, and the suffering meant something. Now think about how rare that feeling is. How long it has been since you felt it. How much of your life is spent in a kind of low-grade dissatisfaction, scrolling through your phone, watching shows you do not care about, eating food that does not satisfy you, working a job that does not matter, and wondering why nothing feels real anymore. This is the cost of comfort. This is what was stolen from you. By 1970, the transformation was complete. The generation that had survived the Depression and the war was starting to retire, and their children, the baby boomers, were inheriting a world that their parents could not have imagined, a world of plenty, a world where you did not have to grow your own food, or fix your own car, or make your own clothes, a world where everything was easy, and they raised their children, Generation X, in that world. And Generation X raised millennials, and millennials are raising Generation Z, each generation softer than the last, each generation more dependent, each generation less capable of handling hardship because they have never had to. This is not an accident. This is not progress. This is a system working exactly as it was designed to work. Because a population that cannot handle discomfort is a population that can be controlled. If you cannot survive without your credit card, you will do whatever your employer tells you to do. If you cannot cook your own meals, you will keep ordering from the apps. If you cannot sit alone with your thoughts, you will keep consuming content. The system does not need to oppress you with force. It just needs to make you so comfortable that the idea of stepping outside that comfort feels impossible. And it works. My God, does it work. Look around. Look at the anxiety epidemic, the depression rates, the loneliness, the rage, the sense that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong, but you cannot figure out what it is. That is not a chemical imbalance. That is not a mental health crisis. That is your soul screaming at you that you were not built for this, that you were built for struggle, for challenge, for hardship, and the absence of those things is killing you slowly from the inside out. There is a term for this. It is called learned helplessness. It comes from an experiment done in 1967 by a psychologist named Martin Seligman. He put dogs in a cage and gave them electric shocks. At first, the dogs tried to escape, They jumped, they clawed, they fought. But the cage was designed so they could not get out. After a while, they stopped trying. Even when Seligman opened the cage, even when escape was possible, the dogs just lay there and took the shocks. They had learned that resistance was futile, that they were helpless. Now think about your life. Think about how many times you have wanted to make a change, to quit the job you hate, to end the relationship that is draining you, to move to a new city, start a new project, take a risk, and think about how many times you have stayed exactly where you are, not because you cannot leave, but because you have learned that leaving is hard. That change is uncomfortable, that it is easier to just lie there and take the shocks. This is what comfort does. It trains you to be helpless. It teaches you that struggle is bad, that pain is something to be avoided at all costs, that the goal of life is to minimize discomfort rather than maximize growth. And once you believe that, once you internalize it, you are finished. You will never do anything great. You will never become the person you are capable of being. You will just exist, a ghost in your own life, going through the motions, waiting for something to change, knowing it never will. But here is the thing. It does not have to be this way. There is another path. It is older than the comfort trap. It is older than capitalism. It is older than civilization itself. It is the path of voluntary hardship, of choosing to suffer. Not because you have to, but because you understand what suffering creates. The Stoics knew this. 2,000 years ago, they were practicing poverty, not because they were poor, but because they wanted to remember what it felt like. They would sleep on the floor, eat plain bread and water, walk barefoot in the winter. They called it negative visualization, the practice of imagining the worst possible outcome so that when it happened, you were ready, so that you could not be broken by circumstances because you had already broken yourself by choice. The Spartans knew this. They sent their children into the wilderness at age 7. No food, no shelter, no protection. If you survived, you became a warrior. If you did not, you were weak, and weakness was not tolerated. This sounds cruel to modern ears, but the Spartans understood something we have forgotten, that hardship is the only true teacher. That comfort breeds weakness, and weakness breeds destruction. The monks knew this. They spent their lives in silence and solitude. They fasted. They prayed for hours in the cold. They denied themselves every pleasure, every distraction, every escape. Not because they hated life, but because they understood that true freedom comes from needing nothing, that the less you require from the world, the less the world can control you. These were not primitive people. These were not fools. They were some of the most sophisticated civilizations in human history, and they all arrived at the same conclusion, that hardship is not the enemy, that comfort is. So what does this mean for you? What does this mean right now, in 2026, living in a world that is designed to make you soft? It means you have to wage war against your own life. You have to actively seek out discomfort. You have to choose hardship, not the kind that is forced on you by circumstance, but the kind you impose on yourself by choice. Because chosen suffering is the only thing that makes you stronger. Unchosen suffering just makes you bitter. Start small. Take a cold shower every morning, not because it is healthy, although it is, but because it sucks. Because every fiber of your being will tell you not to do it, because it is hard. And doing hard things rewires your brain. It teaches you that you can do things you do not want to do, that you are not a slave to your comfort, that you are capable of more than you think. Stop eating for 24 hours once a week, not because you need to lose weight, but because hunger is a teacher. Because every time your stomach growls and you do not immediately reach for food, you are proving to yourself that you can tolerate discomfort, that you are not ruled by your appetites, that you are stronger than your cravings. Delete the apps, all of them, the ones that deliver food, the ones that deliver entertainment, the ones that deliver distraction. Make yourself do things the hard way. Cook your own meals. Walk to the store. Sit in silence for an hour without your phone. It will feel unbearable at first. That is the point. That discomfort is your weakness leaving your body. Find something that scares you and do it. Sign up for the fight class. Ask for the raise. Start the business. Move to the city you have been dreaming about. Whatever it is, do it scared. Do it uncomfortable. Do it even though every rational part of your brain is screaming at you to stay where it is safe. Because safety is a trap. Safety is the thing that will kill you without ever laying a hand on you. This is not about becoming some kind of ascetic monk who lives in a cave. This is about reclaiming the part of yourself that has been systematically weakened by a world that profits from your weakness. This is about understanding that you are not a consumer. You are not a product. You are a human being with a capacity for greatness, and that capacity is unlocked only through struggle. The man in that photograph from 1932, the one standing in front of the dust-covered farmhouse, he did not choose his hardship. It was forced on him by history, by economics, by circumstances beyond his control, but he survived it. And surviving it made him into something that you and I can barely comprehend. Someone who could not be broken. Someone who needed nothing from the world except the chance to keep fighting. You will never face what he faced. The world is too soft now, too safe, too comfortable. But that does not mean you cannot become what he was. It just means you have to choose it. You have to seek out the hardship that the world is trying to protect you from. You have to embrace the struggle that every instinct in your body tells you to avoid. Because here is the truth that no one wants to say out loud. Comfort is killing you. It is making you weak, dependent, and miserable. It is stealing your potential and replacing it with a life of quiet desperation. And the only way out is through the discomfort, through the fear, through the hardship that you have been taught to avoid at all costs. This is not a motivational speech. This is not inspiration. This is a warning. The world you live in was designed to domesticate you, to turn you into something manageable, something predictable, something weak. And it is working. Every day you spend in comfort is another day you lose the edge that made your ancestors unstoppable. But you can get it back. Not by wishing, not by hoping, not by reading another book or listening to another podcast or waiting for circumstances to change. You get it back by choosing hardship, by making your life deliberately harder, by seeking out the struggle that the world is trying to sell you a solution to avoid. The forge is still there. It has always been there. You just have to walk into the fire.